Never think you're the only one who lies awake at night feeling like your mind turns into something you can't control. There are people who can fall asleep the moment their head hits the pillow, and there are people whose minds wake up right when their bodies want to rest. And if you're the second type, if your nights feel like a quiet battle you fight alone, then what you're about to hear might feel painfully familiar and strangely comforting at the same time. There's a reason your brain refuses to calm down when everything around you goes silent. There's a reason your thoughts suddenly get louder when the lights go off. There's a reason you feel like your chest gets tighter even though nothing is happening in the room. And there's a reason you start thinking about things from months ago or years ago or things that haven't even happened and may never happen. Most people don't talk about this. They hide it. They pretend they're fine when they're not. They tell themselves they're being dramatic. They tell themselves they're overreacting. They tell themselves it's just stress or just a phase. But deep down, they feel the same thing. The fear of the night, because the night brings a version of their mind that feels too heavy to sit with. This story is about a boy who went through that exact thing. A boy who tried everything to fall asleep, but nothing worked. A boy who thought he was broken because every night, when he closed his eyes, it felt like he was trapped inside a storm he didn't know how to escape. And the worst part wasn't the thoughts themselves. It was the fact that he couldn't control when they started or when they ended. If you've ever stared at the ceiling for hours, hoping your brain would slow down. If you've ever felt your heart beating faster even though you're lying safely in your bed. If you've ever felt pressure in your chest for no real reason. If you've ever replayed the same worries over and over until you felt sick, then you already understand pieces of this boy's life. But what you probably don't know is the part that changed everything for him. You might think the solution was something complicated, something only doctors or therapists could have taught him, or something expensive, or something you need special knowledge to understand. But you're about to find out that one simple thing, something so small that most people ignore it, ended up giving him the one thing he thought he would never have again: calm nights. This story will show you why the mind acts like this, why it happens at night, why you're not crazy for feeling it, and what this boy learned that finally broke the cycle. And when you hear what actually helped him, you may finally understand why your nights feel the way they do, and why there's nothing wrong with you at all. If you've ever felt trapped in your own thoughts at night, keep listening. This story might change how you see your mind forever. This is a story about a boy who didn't fear monsters, shadows, or things hiding under the bed. He didn't fear the dark or the quiet. What he feared most was something you couldn't see, something that lived inside him and followed him wherever he went, something that waited for him every night the moment the lights went out. He feared his own mind. His name was Liam, and from the outside, he looked like any other kid his age. If you saw him walking down the street or sitting in class, you wouldn't think twice about him. He laughed sometimes. He answered questions when his teachers called on him. He hung out with a few friends after school. Nothing about him shouted, "This kid is struggling." And that's because the real struggle didn't show up until the world around him got quiet. When the day ended, Liam didn't feel relief like most people do. He didn't look forward to sleep or rest. He didn't climb into bed thinking, "Finally, I can relax." Instead, night felt like a long hallway he had to walk down alone, knowing what waited at the end. He didn't talk about it. He didn't ask for help. He just lived with it because he didn't know what else to do. Every night, the same pattern repeated itself. He would brush his teeth, wash his face, change into his pajamas, crawl into bed, pull the blanket up to his chin, turn off the lights, and then he would wait. He would wait for his mind to attack him. It always started small. A tiny thought, an uncomfortable memory, a strange feeling in his chest. And then, slowly, the thoughts grew louder, sharper, faster. They didn't feel like regular thoughts anymore. They felt like waves crashing over him. He couldn't stop them. He couldn't outrun them. He could only watch them hit him over and over until he felt exhausted before the night even began. But nobody knew this. Not his mom, not his dad, not even his closest friend. Because Liam was good at pretending. He learned how to smile through the daytime, even when the nights were breaking him down. He learned how to nod along when people said, "You look tired." He learned how to hide the truth so well that even he started questioning it. Maybe he was overreacting. Maybe he was too sensitive. Maybe it wasn't a real problem. Maybe he just needed to stop thinking so much. But he couldn't. He didn't know how. This became his life. A quiet battle. A heavy secret. A lonely routine he didn't talk about because he felt like nobody would understand. But the truth is, more people understand this feeling than you think. More people lie awake at night with a busy mind than anyone admits. More people struggle in silence because they don't know how to explain what's happening inside them. And this story is about what finally made Liam realize he wasn't broken. He wasn't weak. And he wasn't alone. The nights didn't just stay the same for Liam. They got worse. What started as a few scattered thoughts slowly became something heavier, something harder to escape, something that made him dread the moment the sun went down. At first, he thought it was just a bad week. He assumed that maybe he was stressed about homework, or maybe he was just growing up and this was normal. But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. Every night, the thoughts came faster, the fear came quicker, and the pressure in his chest showed up earlier, almost like his body already knew what was coming before he even got into bed. It was as if his mind was waiting for the quiet, waiting for the darkness, waiting for the moment he had nothing else to focus on so it could bring everything he was avoiding straight to the front of his head. Some nights, Liam tried to distract himself. He'd stay up scrolling on his phone until his eyes burned. He'd watch videos until the screen felt blurry. He'd read random articles he didn't care about. Anything at all, to avoid lying in bed waiting for the storm inside his mind to start. But even with all the distractions, the moment he put down his phone and turned off the light, his thoughts rushed in like they'd been holding their breath, waiting for the chance to overwhelm him. It didn't matter if he was tired. It didn't matter if he had a big test the next morning. It didn't matter if he told himself, "Tonight will be different." The thoughts didn't care. And the worst part? The fear wasn't about anything big. It was about everything small. That's what made it worse. It wasn't one huge problem he could point to and say, "This is why I can't sleep." It was 100 tiny things stacking on top of each other until he felt like he was sinking under something invisible. He worried about little mistakes he made in class. He replayed conversations where he thought he sounded weird. He imagined worst-case scenarios that had no reason to exist. He questioned things that didn't need answers. He stressed about problems that weren't even real. Night after night, he was stuck in a loop he couldn't break. By morning, the tiredness wasn't just in his eyes. It was in his bones. It was in the way he walked, slow and heavy. It was in the way his shoulders slouched, like he was carrying something nobody else could see. And it was in his face, specifically behind his eyes, because they always looked worn out, even when he tried to smile. At school, teachers started asking if he was okay. He always said yes, not because he was actually okay, but because he didn't know how to explain what was happening. How do you tell someone that the place where you're supposed to rest, your own mind, has turned against you? How do you say, "I'm tired," not physically, but mentally, when you're a kid who's supposed to have simple worries? His friends noticed too. They joked that he looked like a zombie. They laughed about how he probably stayed up playing games all night. Liam laughed with them, even though none of it was true. He didn't stay up because he wanted to. He stayed up because he didn't know how to make his thoughts stop spinning long enough to fall asleep. As the nights kept getting worse, his days started falling apart. He couldn't focus in class. He couldn't remember things he studied. He felt irritated at the smallest things. And most of all, he felt disconnected from everything around him, like he was watching life move but couldn't keep up. Then one night, something happened that pushed him past his limit. It started like every other night. He brushed his teeth. He said goodnight to his parents. He got into bed. He closed his eyes. And then, just like always, the thoughts came. But this time, they didn't come softly. They hit him all at once. What if something's wrong with me? What if I never sleep normally again? What if everyone finds out I can't even do something as simple as sleep? What if I'm stuck like this forever? His breathing got fast. His hands felt sweaty. His heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. He felt trapped in his own body, trapped in his own mind, trapped in a room that suddenly felt too small and too dark. He sat up quickly. His chest tightened. His throat felt closed. He didn't know what was happening. He couldn't control it. And for the first time, he thought he might actually be losing control completely. He didn't cry out loud, but his eyes filled and spilled over. He pressed a hand over his chest, trying to steady his breathing, but it only scared him more. The more he tried to calm down, the worse it got. Minutes passed. It felt like hours. He finally slipped out of bed, walked quietly down the hallway, and sat in the living room in the dark. He didn't turn on the light. Something about the darkness felt safer than the light did. Maybe because the darkness outside felt calmer than the darkness inside his mind. He curled his knees up and wrapped his arms around them, staring at the floor like it might give him an answer. There was no reason for his heart to be racing. No danger, no noise, no problem in the room. But his thoughts didn't care. His body didn't care. Anxiety never cared about logic. Then he heard soft footsteps. His heart jumped until he realized it was his grandfather. His grandfather lived with them, and he often woke up early or walked around quietly at night. But this time, he must have sensed something different, something heavier in the air. He saw Liam sitting alone in the dark and didn't ask the usual questions parents ask. He didn't say, "What's wrong?" He didn't say, "Why aren't you in bed?" He didn't say, "You need to try harder to sleep." He simply walked over, sat beside him, and said quietly, "You're awake because your mind thinks it's in danger." Liam froze. It was the first time someone had put words to what he felt. Not dramatic words, not confusing words, just truth. His grandfather didn't need explanations. He didn't need details. He didn't even need to hear the whole story, because he understood something most people don't understand. Anxiety doesn't need a reason to show up, and people don't need reasons to feel scared. In that moment, for the first time in a long time, Liam felt seen. His grandfather stayed beside him without rushing him to talk. He didn't try to fix everything in a minute. He didn't try to make the fear disappear. He just sat there, calm and still, like his presence alone was enough to give Liam a small piece of safety. And then, after a long quiet moment, he said, "Come with me. I want to show you something." And that one quiet moment was the beginning of everything that would change. His grandfather led him down the hall to a small room at the back of the house. Liam had walked past it 100 times, but never paid much attention to it. The door was always half open, and inside there was nothing special, just a chair, a small table, and a soft lamp that cast a warm light across the room. But tonight, the room felt different. It felt quiet in a way the rest of the house didn't. Not silent, just calm. Like the air inside it wasn't rushing anywhere. Like it was waiting. His grandfather motioned for him to sit. Liam sat down slowly, still breathing uneven, his heart still beating too fast. His hands trembled a little, though he tried hard to hide it. His grandfather didn't comment on it. He didn't stare. He didn't make Liam feel weird about his fear. He simply pulled out a small notebook from the table drawer and set it in front of him. It was thin, plain, with a worn crease in the middle. There was nothing special about it, but the way his grandfather placed it in front of him made it feel like it held some kind of secret. "Do you know why your mind gets loud at night?" his grandfather asked quietly. Liam shook his head, almost afraid of saying the wrong thing, almost afraid of breaking the calm in the room. His grandfather sat back and said, "Because it's the first time all day that you're not running away from your thoughts." The words hit Liam deeper than he expected. His grandfather didn't say it in a harsh way. He didn't accuse him of anything. He simply spoke a truth that Liam didn't even realize was true until he heard it out loud. "All day," his grandfather went on, "you keep yourself busy. You fill every second with something to do. You avoid the quiet because the quiet feels uncomfortable. But when the night comes and everything stops, that's when the thoughts you pushed away come back. They want to be heard. They want space." Liam stared at the notebook, not sure what any of this meant for him. His grandfather reached out and tapped the cover lightly. "This is where you give them space." Liam looked up, confused. "How?" "Right," his grandfather said. "Not to make the thoughts go away. Not to fix them. Just write them down. Give them a place to sit so they don't sit on your chest." Liam looked at the notebook again. He didn't understand how writing anything could stop the fear inside him. But he trusted his grandfather more than he trusted anything else in that moment. And something in him was desperate enough to try anything. That first night, he held the pen with shaky fingers and wrote whatever came to mind. The words came slow at first, then faster. He wrote about school, about his fears, about memories that bothered him. He wrote about how his chest felt tight and how his thoughts felt too loud. He wrote about being tired of feeling scared with no reason. When he finished, his grandfather didn't ask to read it. He didn't judge or comment. He simply said, "Good. Now let the notebook hold it. You don't need to." Liam didn't sleep perfectly that night, but something small changed. The thoughts still came, but they didn't hit him as violently as before. They didn't chase him in circles the way they usually did. For the first time in a long time, he felt a small gap between his mind and the fear. A small breath of space. He didn't fall asleep right away, but he didn't panic either. And that alone felt like a miracle. The next night, he wrote again. More came out. Things he didn't even know were inside him. Fears he didn't have names for. Worries about his future. Thoughts he never dared to speak out loud. The more he wrote, the lighter he felt. Not fixed, not healed, just lighter. Night after night, the notebook filled up with all the things he carried alone for so long. And night after night, he felt the pressure in his chest soften, the noise in his head quiet down, and the bed, which once felt like a trap, started feeling like a place he could rest again. Weeks passed, then months. The anxiety didn't vanish completely, because anxiety doesn't work like that. But something changed in the way he handled it. His mind still got loud sometimes, but now he understood why. The fear still showed up, but it didn't control him. He had a tool, a real one that didn't judge him, one that didn't talk back, one that didn't get tired of holding his thoughts. One night, after writing in the notebook and closing it softly, Liam whispered, "Good night," just like his grandfather had taught him. And for the first time since he was small, he lay down in his bed and didn't wait for panic. He didn't brace for it. He didn't fear it. He trusted himself. He trusted the habit. He trusted the space he created inside his mind. He didn't fall asleep instantly. No one does that every night. But he fell asleep with calm instead of fear, with softness instead of panic, with understanding instead of confusion. And that was enough to change everything. Liam learned something most people spend their whole lives trying to understand. Your mind doesn't calm down when you force it. It calms down when it feels heard, when it has space, when you stop running from it and start giving it a place to rest. Night anxiety doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It simply means your mind is carrying too much by itself. And sometimes, what the mind needs most isn't silence. It's release. It's understanding. It's a place to empty the weight. Liam found that place in a small notebook in a quiet room. And slowly, with patience, he learned how to sleep again. Not because his fear disappeared, but because he no longer faced it alone. You're not alone either. You're not strange. You're not too much. You're human. And your mind is trying to protect you, even when it feels overwhelming. The night doesn't have to be a battle. Sometimes all it takes is giving your thoughts a place to go, before they grow too loud to handle.